present, and as never before. The future of life on our planet has become a matter of great concern. As the 21st century and the third millennium evolve, we are confronted with several warnings concerning the growing fragility of the Earth's life support systems. On November 18, 1992, some of the world's senior scientists from 70 countries, including 102 Nobel laureates, signed and sent an urgent warning to government leaders of all nations as part of the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, the Earth Summit, held in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil.
The environment is suffering critical stress. Our massive tampering with the world's interdependent web of life, coupled with the environmental damage which is inflicted by deforestation, species loss, and climate change could trigger widespread adverse effects, including unpredictable collapses of critical biological systems whose interactions and dynamics we only imperfectly understand. Uncertainty over the extent of these effects cannot excuse complacency or delay in facing the threats. No more than one or a few decades remain before the chance to avert the threats we now confront will be lost and the prospects for humanity immeasurably diminished. A great change in the stewardship of the earth and the life on it is required if vast human misery is to be avoided and our global home on this planet is not to be irretrievably mutilated. Acting on this recognition is not altruism, but enlightened self-interest. Whether industrialized or not, we all have one lifeboat. No nation can escape injury when global biological systems are damaged. No nations can escape from conflicts over increasingly scarce resources. In addition, environmental and economic instabilities will cause mass migrations with incalculable consequences for developed and underdeveloped nations alike. A new ethic is required, a new responsibility for caring for ourselves and for the earth. We must recognize the earth's limited capacity to provide for us. We must no longer allow it to be ravaged. This ethic must motivate a great movement, convincing reluctant leaders and reluctant governments and reluctant people themselves to effect the needed changes. According to Agenda 21 or the Rio Declaration, the growth of world population, industrial practices and production combined with unsustainable consumption patterns places increasingly severe stress on the life-supporting capacities of our planet.
Mahatma Gandhi said, "There is enough for everyone's need, but not for everyone's greed." Human actions must change course and adjust scale to avert irreversible disasters. Human activities have to be guided by informed policies. This requires education based on appropriate knowledge that enables us to live in harmony with nature and attain sustainable development. When discussing life support systems, the authors of Agenda 21 expressed concern for the wise use of land, water, air, energy, and other natural resources. We need to understand how the ecosystems of nature have organized themselves to maximize their sustainability. Ecosystems generate no waste, one species' waste being another species' food. Matter cycles continually through the web of life. Energy driving these ecological cycles flow from the sun. Diversity assures resilience. Life from its beginning did not take over the planet by combat, but by cooperation and partnership.
We need to secure and sustain the cooperative relationships in the web of life. Economic and socio-cultural development policies should be oriented to ensure the maintenance of conditions for sustainability of life and global peace, justice, equity and security.
We can define 4 time-related scales of maturity in addressing sustainable development.
The far past is associated with inactive approaches in which there is no concern for environmental degradation and sustainability.
The time scale of the immediate past is concerned primarily with reactive approaches. It involves prevention-oriented remedies.
The time scale of the present is associated with interactive approaches. It is concerned with regulations and standards that ameliorate the harmful effects of those processes which might otherwise result in the creation of harmful products and services.
The timescale of the future is concerned with proactive approaches to sustainable development. A proactive approach would also include interactive and reactive components towards sustainable development. There exists a gallery of definitions of sustainable development. The most widely quoted and effectively official definition is that of the Brundtland Commission, 1987. Sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs.
Without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs.
Sustainable development involves intergenerational equity, the principle of equity between people alive today and future generations. It also involves intragenerational equity, the principle of equity between different groups of people alive today. Sustainable development also includes conservation of biodiversity and precautionary risk aversion strategies. The problem of sustainable development is multidimensional as it involves a range of issues concerning society and nature, multidisciplinary as it encompasses a wide spectrum of disciplines from natural to social sciences, multi-temporal as it spans a time horizon covering short to long periods of planning, multi-geographic as it spans across all regions of the world. Sustainability science is the study of sustainable development from a multiple scale perspective, in that it is necessary to consider issues at a micro level as well as at a macro level. It is the study of dynamic interactions between nature and human society. There are many global issues which must be fully addressed if sustainable development is to become a reality. Many of these issues interact generally strongly. The following list is not exhaustive, but it indicates the breadth of issues which are considered in depth in the Encyclopedia of Life Support Systems. Biodiversity loss, climate change, declining health of ecosystems,
Deforestation, desertification, energy security, erosion of human rights, fisheries, food and agricultural security, globalization, human health, inadequate education. Why is it that those people who contribute most to wreaking havoc on poor communities and the Earth's ecosystems are those with BAs, MScs and PhDs, and not the ignorant poor from the South, as David Orr once remarked? The fact that the higher education sector is seriously failing society by producing leaders incapable of addressing our most pressing problems should trigger some critical consideration about the fundamental role of universities in society. If universities are the nursery of tomorrow's leaders and educate most of the people who develop and manage society's institutions, then the sector bears profound responsibilities to increase the awareness, knowledge, technologies and tools to create a sustainable future, as the Talleries Declaration, signed by many of the world's university leaders, stated in 1990. This clearly implies that graduates of every discipline, whether as engineers, teachers, politicians, lawyers, architects, biologists, bankers, managers, or tour operators, etc., will need a sound working knowledge about sustainability. Universities the world over are regarded as the centers of the most advanced knowledge. They should therefore, through their teaching and their institutional practice, embody role models for the wider society. Loss of indigenous knowledge, natural disasters,
Natural resources depletion, ozone layer depletion,
political corruption, pollution of land, air and water, population growth, population migration and aging, poverty, soil deterioration, threats to international security, unstable political infrastructures,
wars, terrorism and international conflict, water security,
Sustainable development involves wise management of resources, natural or otherwise. We will now see how resources are vital to the process of living and development. Soil is a biotic and abiotic complex that provides critical services in support of life. Humans try to accelerate the natural cycles in the soil by adding such plant nutrients as nitrate, phosphate and potassium NPK fertilizer to boost the crop yields. Yields then fall and the soil deteriorates further. Only by recognizing the fundamental importance of soils can we foster an incentive for their conservation or improvement for the benefit of present and future generations.
This is a capital that enables humans in social development. Human development was seen as a process of enlarging people's choices in three areas. A. The opportunity to lead long and healthy lives. B. The opportunity to acquire knowledge. And C. The opportunity to have access to resources necessary in order to have a decent standard of living. Sustainable human development is quite strongly associated with and is ultimately a means of developing sustainable human capital as an important component of the wealth of a nation. The worldview of traditional neoclassical economics is limited to a closed circuit of flows between firms and households. Traditionally, development economics has been concerned with economic growth and economic transformation, and often without considering social, political, and cultural aspects of society that influence economic behavior.
Much of neoclassical economics is based on the incorrect assumption that natural resources are infinite in their stock, and that the natural environment has an infinite capacity to absorb waste and pollution. Ecological economics recognizes the fact that the human economy actually thrives on ecological goods and services provided by the natural environment. True wealth comprises assets that include a variety of forms of capital. Expanding the notions of wealth implies including these different types of wealth in the system of national accounts. Technology represents knowledge about how to do things. Technology, information, and systems management resources have potential applications in support of sustainable development. They add new dimensions to human ability and expand the range of opportunities in the process. The information technology revolution has ushered the world into an economy characterized by innovations, ideas, and knowledge workers. The Internet is changing the behavior of individuals and the arrangement of organizations, and is seen as a new technology-based system of systems that can also change the development of countries.
1999, the World Conference on Science held in Budapest declared a new commitment for science for the 21st century and laid down a framework for action that is based on the broad principle: science for knowledge and knowledge for progress, peace and development. The effect of this declaration is clearly intended to direct technology resources towards sustainable development. Regional and international networks for research and training, partnerships involving communities of developed and developing countries, and specific programs for the exchange and transfer scientific knowledge and skills have proved to be important mechanisms and should be fostered and implemented.
While the traditional use of the term capital referred to economic or financial capital, today the term refers to assets of value in any form. The use of capital of any form mobilizes an idea and gives it form. Today, capital is often associated with an adjective which describes the form of capital being discussed. Human capital, social capital, and institutional capital are now regarded as forms of capital. Social capital refers to the institutions, relationships, and norms that shape the quality and quantity of a society's social interactions. Institutional capital comprises those social structures and systems which order the process of development, whereby the ideals and intentions of individuals are mobilized into a program of action. Capacity building, especially in developing countries, requires development of institutional capital. Guidance of the financial sector constitutes a key part of institutional capital. Effective sustainable development policy relies on an open, consensual, and accountable process of policy formulation.
Life on Earth arose and evolved around water, and the dependence of life on water always has been and always will be absolute. The oceans and the biosphere, life on Earth, are two vital components of the integrated hydrological cycle, one of the principal global life support systems. Much of the world's water has little potential for human use. 97.5% of all water on Earth is saline, leaving only 2.5% as fresh water. Most of this fresh water lies deep in polar ice caps and is relatively inaccessible. Only the far smaller quantities of fresh water in rivers and lakes, in soils and in shallow aquifers can be readily exploited by humanity. Water is an absolutely essential commodity for drinking, hygiene, food production, industry, navigation, hydropower generation, recreation, and virtually every aspect of economic and human development. Water is absolutely critical for the healthy functioning of nature, and fresh water is absolutely critical for all land. Many countries are currently facing moderate to high water stress. Most of those that risk moving into even higher stress categories by 2025 are lower income countries. Investment in water resources development is an ethical issue which humanity must address. A small proportion of the well over $480 billion spent on advertising globally, or of the well over $800 billion spent on military armament, could be wisely used to transform the lives of the most deprived half of humanity, while also taking positive steps towards a long-term goal of sustainable water supplies for everyone.
The environment of our planet is suitable for life because of the availability of water, air, and land. The global environment recycles gases, water, and waste, and is the source of food, timber, minerals, and energy. Humanity has so far blindly accepted the belief that global cycles and circulation systems will maintain the supply of vital components, and as a result of this belief, often has had little regard for how these systems can be strained beyond the point of natural recovery. The concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is of vital importance to part of the global homeostasis, which concerns the maintenance of global temperature. The continuous burning of fossil fuel and the reduction of tropical rainforests represents an unforgiving drain on the global. Sustainable energy supply is an essential factor in enhancing the quality of life for present and future generations. Sustainable development requires that this be accomplished while minimizing the burden on the environment. Sustainable development implies use of renewable energy resources while minimizing the use of non-renewable resources. Governments must adopt energy policies and support research and development for clean energy technologies. Conventional oil supplies could run dry within 40 years at present rates of production. Natural gas should continue a little longer, and oil from tar sands will still be available into the 22nd century, but at a very high environmental cost. Likewise, the Earth's supply of coal is still very large, but the environmental cost of coal combustion is much higher than that of gas and oil. Energy production from nuclear power plants is more attractive from this point of view, but other environmental concerns have not yet been resolved satisfactorily, and there is massive public opposition to the nuclear industry due mostly to safety concerns. Will the crude oil taps open further to drive the price down and outstrip the competition, leading to an aggravation of global warming and a desperate scramble for energy before the end of the century? Or will taxation and subsidy be used to arrange an orderly transition? The energy supply debate is at the heart of devising sustainable development policies and strategies.
The achievement of sustainable world food security, which has long been a noble goal of the development community, depends on sustainable agricultural systems. Today, sadly, we are still a long way from achieving that end. There are 29 countries which presently require emergency food assistance, and the world's food supply system leaves 800 million people hungry and malnourished every night. It is becoming clear that one of the greatest challenges facing the 21st century world is the provision of an adequate food supply for the world's growing population. Advances in biotechnology applied to agriculture have enormous potential to greatly improve this situation. However, the priorities and agenda of the biotechnology lobby are regarded
Applications of mathematics, which were once limited to the natural sciences, have now spread across the social sciences as well. Mathematical models enhance our understanding of the processes that take place in the world through a quantitative framework. They are used to guide management processes in planning and development. They form the backbone of decision support systems that guides humans in choice-making and resource allocation efforts. If mathematics helps produce better models that make better predictions, then the policymakers should use those models. Properly used, mathematical models can be very valuable supports for policy analysis and associated decision-making. Physical sciences are essential knowledge resources in our increasingly technical world. Much of modern technology is the result of physics research, including the transistor and integrated circuits, which are at the heart of modern computers and electronics.
Advances in chemical science have transformed the lives of most of humanity and have been a cornerstone of manufacturing and technological development. Chemistry has been central to developments in textiles, ceramics, food additives, pharmaceuticals, pesticides, paints, and cosmetics. Chemical sciences should play a very positive role in sustainable development, contributing to improvement in quality of life for present and future generations. But without control, human-made chemicals have the potential to create enormous negative impacts. We need further development of chemical sciences, but we also need enlightened management of the science to ensure that the effects are beneficial to humanity. The biological sciences provide us with a greater understanding of life on Earth. Medical sciences enable us to deal with diseases and disorders in humans and animals. These two closely connected fields are presently going through a major transition that may be regarded as a scientific revolution.
Healthcare systems are coming under increasing pressure, and they need to be supported by the knowledge resources of the biological and medical sciences. The sudden realization of the future value of patents and intellectual property rights gave rise to a scramble for the prestige drugs which require the latest technology. The strongly protective and possessive attitude towards intellectual property rights is not in harmony with the traditional notion of free exchange of scientific ideas, data, and research materials. This is bound to be to the detriment of those parts of the world which have greatest need for healthcare research and such earth sciences as geology, geophysics, geochemistry, oceanography, and atmospheric sciences provide us with an understanding of the Earth, the only known home to life in the universe. Through these sciences, we know of the hazards associated with the dynamic phenomena of the Earth, and this knowledge enables us to take steps to minimize. The Earth is the home of innumerable plants, creatures, and human beings, which are connected by an intricate web of mutual relations and feedback. The Earth system is an interaction between its non-living or abiotic part, comprised of rock, water, and gases moving through geological stages of cooling, plate shifting, and the living organic world or biotic part that is comprised of bacteria, fungi, plants, and animals. There are a number of major questions of importance relative to the Earth's sciences and sustainability. Are there threshold levels in this system which we should not transgress? Indeed, are we not transgressing them at this very time? And what are the consequences? In the light of these two questions, should humans build mechanisms to regulate social practices that are heavily impacting on the Earth system? If so, how should these natural capital is transformed into built capital by engineering and technology. The so-called industrial civilization has spread across virtually the whole world in a relatively short span of time. The culture of industrial civilization, at least in its early stages, has been based on the wrong assumption that the earth belongs to the humans and that with the help of engineering and technology, anything can be done at any scale on this planet. Today, many suggest that our industrial civilization should move towards sustainability by developing the culture of industrial ecology. This requires evolution of engineering and technology such that human activities mimic natural biological systems to be self-contained in their material and resource use. Engineering and technology should be also appropriate with a range of options and criteria for choice with respect to a specific place or situation.
The Encyclopedia of Life Support Systems (EOLSS) is a source of knowledge that is aimed at providing integrated and holistic education and is developed to serve as a guide to policies for sustainable development. This encyclopedia presents a comprehensive, authoritative and integrated body of knowledge of life support systems. It is a forward-looking publication designed as a global guide to professional practice, education and heightened social awareness of critical life support issues. It is developed as a dependable source of knowledge for use in human endeavors aimed at development of remedial measures to counter the current practices which imperil the Earth's life support systems. Natural and social sciences, humanities, engineering and technology, and management policies for sustainable development and use of life support systems are emphasized together with issues of global change and the ecological, economic, social, ethical, cultural and political dimensions.
The encyclopedia is intended to enhance the systematic development of knowledge that is essential for global stability, justice, equity, peace and security. In particular, it presents perspectives from worldwide regions and cultures and is free from geographic, racial, cultural, political, gender, age or religious bias.
To us, Mother Earth is not only a source of economic riches that give us the maize, which is our life, but she also provides so many other things that the privileged ones of today strive for. The earth is the root and the source of our culture. She keeps our memories, she receives our ancestors, and she therefore demands that we honor her and return to her with tenderness and respect those goods that she gives us. We have to take care of her so that our children and grandchildren may continue to benefit from her. If the world does not learn now to show respect to nature, what kind of future will the new generations have?
Two major systems of Earth, the environment and the human system. Some refer to it as anthroposphere. These can be divided into subsystems such as human system, which consists of individual, government and society, built system, which consists of the infrastructure and economy, and natural system, which consists of air, water and land, or atmosphere, biosphere, geosphere and hydrosphere. The knowledge needed for the understanding of these systems for their sustainability is highly interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary. Thus, sustainable development is with reference to different forms of capital that are essential for the continuity of.
The encyclopedia is aimed at a wide spectrum of users. Its presentations have the following characteristics: popular appeal, educational relevance, professional utility, research relevance, future and policy orientation.
The EOLSS can be used to summarize the state-of-the-art in subject domains, identify formal knowledge principles, relevant knowledge practices, and likely future perspectives, and suggest additional sources of relevant material. In this way, the EOLSS may be regarded as a source of carefully organized knowledge and not just a provider of raw information and data. The full text of the EOLSS body of knowledge, comprising about 200 themes, and has been developed under the expertise of Honorary Theme Editors, HTEs. The contributions come from over 7,000 authors from over 100 countries throughout the world.
Unlike usual encyclopedias, which are alphabetically organized expanded dictionaries, the EOLSS is unique for its efforts towards unity of knowledge. It is thematically organized source of knowledge that is disciplinary, interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary. No wonder that the EOLSS is rapidly becoming the most sought-after reference site in the world. A recent count showed that the average number of daily visitors over a week was approximately 34,000. The one-day high recorded over 99,000 visitors.
The Encyclopedia represents the fruits of an unprecedented global effort involving thousands of experts in a wide diversity of subjects and from the very. The Bahamas workshop followed several smaller workshops that had been held in 1996 in Washington, D.C., January 25th to 28th, Tokyo, March 7th to 8th, Moscow, March 13th to 15th, Mexico City, March 28th to 29th, and Beijing, March 29th to 31st. A team of scientists from the French Academy of Sciences also provided assessments and recommendations. The proposals from the Bahamas workshop were reviewed by invited specialist teams in USA, Japan, Russia and China in collaboration with additional meetings. August 1996, Panama, Regional Committee for South and Central America. September 1996, Abu Sultan, Egypt, Regional Committee for Africa and the Middle East. March 1997, Kuala Lumpur, Asian Regional Committee to compete and unify the list of contents.